One of my favorite videos to do each and every week is the headlines about something really quick we're going to go over, skim the surface, talk about it real quick, talk about a solution to it, and really see how it's going to impact you for this coming week. All these stories are ones either you have heard or they've hit a different angle on it or hit quickly and you've missed the whole point of it. How are these impacting you and how then it can impact you over the coming days and weeks and months ahead, especially as we go deeper into the political season for the year. So let's jump into these 10 headlines that are just going to be rapid fire. We're going to talk about them, talk about solutions to them, what we should be doing as preppers and homesteaders and someone who wants to live sustainable, and I think that will help us prepare for this week. Let's jump into it. This video starts right now.
Be free with me.
Hey guys, welcome to The Max. Thank you so much for being here. If you like this content, if you like these videos, quick headlines, skim the surface, talk about a solution to the problem and how it impacts you, then let us know and give us a thumbs up and hopefully share the video with other friends so they can see the value of some of the information that we give here on The Max. So let's jump into the first story. So the first one we need to talk about that will impact you and is definitely impacting a big majority of people around our area, but it says Mississippi River saltwater intrusion threatens drinking water. This was a story from Epic Times, and it shows that the fact that our waterways are down, our fresh waters are down because of maybe droughts, not getting enough rain. The Mississippi Valley is low, and so therefore a lot of the salt water and seawater is coming back into the Mississippi River. Well, guess what? That's where a lot of the water is pumped and purified and filtered for New Orleans. New Orleans is being affected, and that's a big city. So again, we go back to cities, and everybody depends on the government to fix it or the Corps of Engineers to make sure it's going well. That's why I always tell you to stockpile water, put some filtered water up, put a way that you can filter your own water, and also make sure you have 1 to 3 gallons per person up per day. That's a lot of water. 900,000 Louisiana residents, kind of in that greater New Orleans area. That's almost 1 million people affected just because of a natural situation. We can't help the fact that there's no water, but what we can do is protect ourselves better by putting water up. If you're in the cities, look for the bricks or look for ways that you can have stackable water containers. It is a game changer because these people right here are affected pretty good. Number 2, China's shipbuilding capacity. Listen to this, more than 200 times larger than the U.S. Now remember, we were always known for our Navy. America has always been known for its Navy, helping police the world, helping police the waters. I'm not saying that's a good thing or not. I'm just saying that's how we protected ourselves for so long. It's because of our Navy. With all of a sudden we're getting beat out in some other areas in our military, especially in intelligence and technology. Now look, even the fleet and the Chinese Navy is getting bigger and will cause us more problems. They're making more inroads into the seas right there beside them and causing mischief in the Asian Pacific areas. But if we're not strong enough and they're a way bigger fleet, and do we have a leg to stand on, and can we go and make sure that things are safe, especially when it comes to our trade routes? Remember, we talked about the Panama Canal, we talked about the trade around the world. We're a big importer now. Is our goods going to struggle based on the Chinese Navy getting bigger? This is something we have to pay attention to. And not only that, the Navy has to find different ways to recruit. We talked about this in the last videos. Quit worrying about the woke agenda and all this ideology, and you say, you know what, we want to have patriotism back in America, that if people want to fight for the country, they have something to fight for. It's not about politics, it's about our freedom. Number 3, another big story, and they keep hitting this. Leftists and this administration keep pushing this. The Secretary of Education for Joe Biden came out, Miguel Cardona, and said that he does not like parents speaking up at school boards. He said he doesn't respect them. His words, they act like they know what's right for the kids. It's their kids. They're bringing protest against this agenda, and this guy's coming out saying, you know what, I don't have respect for them. They should hush their mouth and sit down and let us lead these kids because we know what's best for your children. That's dangerous. You're seeing this more in these liberal areas in these cities. Get your kids away from public school. I believe that if you don't, I believe you're going to see a heavier woke agenda. You're going to see more indoctrination and more socialist children who don't even know if they're a boy or girl. Please do not let them change history. Understand the value of homeschool, private school, co-ops. Try to find means to do that. You leading your children is going to be so much better than these kind of people leading your children. Number 4, look for, personally, I think Biden to step away and Gavin step right in. The Biden campaign will send Gavin Newsom to the upcoming GOP debate. Now, this is story all over, but what we're missing is, whereas DeSantis, kind of came in and everybody calls him, quote unquote, sell out to Trump. Now, again, I don't know, your thoughts on Trump or DeSantis, but the difference with the Republicans versus the Democrats, you have the infighting on the Republican side, which you tend to do when you have a primary. But what you're seeing for Gavin, he's not coming in and making fun of Biden. He's not coming in and saying Biden's doing wrong. He's become his biggest cheerleader. Why? Because he knows he is not going to last forever. He knows he will be the one that everybody will look for when it comes to a charismatic leader for the Democrat Party. It's not Harris, and it could be Michelle, but be watching for Gavin to make a play. He's doing more interviews, more debates. He's actually pulling to the center, not my center by any means, not close enough for me to vote for him, but he's pulling to the center on some issues. So I think you're going to see him stay very leftist, but then you're going to see him maneuver to the middle on some issues to try to bring in different votes, because I believe he sees the writing on the wall. Biden will probably not be the one in 2024, either to health or to all the other mess he's got himself in. Gavin's probably going to be the guy, and guess what? He's a charismatic guy that knows how to speak and a very good orator. So if it's Trump, DeSantis, Vivek, whoever's on the right, they better be ready, because this will be a hard opponent compared to Biden. Number 5, you're seeing major pushes against self-defense and your 2A rights. The Biden administration came out and they're going to do all this. They've got a new czar, which is Harris. She becomes the czar over everything. She was the czar over the border, which is falling to pieces. So now she'll be the czar over this kind of gun violence prevention kind of push that they're doing. You're seeing higher taxes in California, magazine issues in several states. The more and more they push, remember, First Amendment rights are all the freedoms that are more important than anything. The Second Amendment rights help you keep the First Amendment rights. So when we take away the Second Amendment rights, that means the censorship, the overwhelming encroachment of the government will be harder on the First Amendment rights. We're already seeing that. More states, more liberal states, of course, are pushing for these kind of policies. I challenge you, if you're going to live there, you better be proactive and not reactive, because you're losing your state just like we're going to lose our country if we don't take control of this. The First and Second Amendments are very much in attack, and I believe we don't see it, and I believe we are watching our rights just be maneuvered away, all because we're allowing these politicians, these lobbyists, and this ideology across the world cause us to really struggle. Did you see Al Sharpton came out this week and said that we need to take away guns, we need to take away firearms, because that's a civil rights issue. I mean, you see how they're spending it? They're going to make you believe that firearms are terrible. It's not anything to do with the person's firearms. The Southern Command, basically our military, has canceled again the Sound of Freedom showing. Now, the problem I have with this is not the fact that if you believe that you want to watch Sound of Freedom or not. The sad effect is, again, to our military, we're going to this woke ideology. I imagine they didn't cancel any other movie that was a leftist-leaning movie or a movie that was indoctrinating of some sort. However, they canceled Sound of Freedom, which is not even, this should not even be a right or left issue. It's about trafficking, and we need to control that on both sides of the aisle. I don't understand why this movie has been so polarized by the left. It's unbelievable. And they said there's unsubstantiated claims in it. I'll be honest with you, no matter what your thoughts are on it, there's a lot of movies that are fiction. So if you're saying that documentaries are all based on true stories, most of the documentaries and most of these movies that are based on true stories are not fully true. Now, I don't know if this movie's true or not, but I'm saying let people decide what they want to watch. It's kind of like the Trump-Biden thing. If people want to elect whoever, let them elect them. I don't understand why we believe the government has to step in and overregulate these things and tell us what we can or can't do. I don't get that. So the Sound of Freedom being canceled is so much more than that. It's the fact that if they don't want you to watch it, they're going to censor it. That's a big deal. And if you're in the military fighting for freedom, they're taking it away right in front of you. To watch a movie, that's just the start. Number 7, we've talked about this before, is the inflation of car prices and used cars and new cars. There was a study that came out that said over 50% of people are priced out of buying cars. I told you a long time ago, sometimes when the agenda that they're wanting, get rid of gas, get rid of self-defense tools, when we see that, we think that's crazy. Getting rid of meat, all that kind of stuff, it's unbelievable. But here's how they do it. They price it so high, and they manipulate the market so much that you can't afford to even buy into the market. Think of the UAW strikes. They're wanting a shorter work week for about 30 or 40% extra money. Now, when we do that, that's going to make the car prices even go higher. So where people were buying them and struggling to pay an 8 or 9 year note on a car, the used car market was still kind of high. Because of that, they're even going to go higher. So 50% of people are outpriced. They're going in major debts. They're getting upside down in vehicles. They're not even able to buy them. Do you think that the UAW strikes and the push of this high price fuel, $100 a barrel fuel, do you think that's going to help? But it may be on purpose. I think there's a lot more to it. Did you hear that Biden is going to the picket line this next week? He wants to fight for your rights to strike. All the while it's costing hundreds of millions of dollars for the strike to go on for America. Again, more money spent that we don't have. And I honestly believe we are really digging ourselves in a hole that we can't get out of when it comes to debt. Number 8, Rhino McCarthy. McCarthy now backtracks on stripping Ukraine aid from the Pentagon funding bill. This man had already said he is not putting the Ukraine funding into the Pentagon bill, the defense bill. He's sitting there with the fact that he can deal with the shutdown. He can do so much, but he's too scared. Every time he stands on some kind of moral principle or trying to help out the freedom movement and not go in debts and not have all this wasteful spending, especially with Ukraine, he kowtows right back to the center or the left. He never stands his ground. This guy is not a leader. He's got to go. People like Matt Gaetz, all you people in the Freedom Caucus, quit saying, it's kind of like the indictments, quit saying you're going to do something and actually do it. So I'm actually saying, McCarthy, you're not going to go more right. We already know that. You've been a career politician. These Freedom Caucus congressmen, it's time for you to actually show some responsibility for your people and say, you know what? I'm done. I'm not supporting this guy anymore, and we're gonna take him out of office. If not, if you can't take him out of the speakership, make it so tough on him that he looks like a babbling fool when he comes to actual negotiations, because he has not even his party standing with him. So come on, guys. This guy is bending over, not having a backbone, and kowtowing to everything when it comes to politics because he wants power. He'll kowtow to you, he'll kowtow to them to keep the power. That's a slithering snake in disguise and a rhino. It's time to get him out of power. Number 9, I don't know if you saw this. There is a major supply chain issues when it comes to shipping containers and coming all across the board. We talked about the Navy issue with China. That's a big deal. We talked about the Panama Canal being low. But the rates for the shipping containers right now, they're not able to fill the containers, not able to fulfill the ships. So therefore, the rates and everything is going down. The money is not being made across on the ships. So 2 things are going to happen, simply. You're not going to get your goods, or your goods are going to be skyrocketed high because they're going to have to say, okay, we're going to have to charge extremely high amounts to get these containers moved. If they're not making a lot of money, 2 things happen. I mean, this is so easy. They either charge you way more or that you don't get the goods. That's it. So we're having major supply chain issues when it comes to shipping freight. We've seen this with the train strikes. We've seen this actually with freight. If you remember just trucking freight, there was a major trucking agency closed down and filed bankruptcy just a few months ago. We're seeing the breakdown of the supply chain. Again, I go back to solutions like we talked about with water. If you don't start taking some of that more local and quit relying on stuff that you're having to buy from all over the world, not that you can't do it. Convenience is amazing. But if you can start buying stuff local, growing your own food, having a more local approach to your environment of economy, and understanding that the community can work together. It did for years. Why do we think we have to get things from China? Why do we think we have to get things from Taiwan? Why do we think we have to get stuff from all over the world, or even from a different part of the U.S.? Why don't we look at local communities and see if we can thrive just there? If we need to order stuff online, great, understandable. But not everything needs to be ordered online. Let's try to take our supply chain local again, and I think you're not going to be affected by these supply chain crises. They're hitting harder, and it's going to cost you either a lot more or the goods won't be there. Take your supply chain local. And number 10, my favorite on the agenda list today, Ukraine needs rebuilding. I mean, there is a lot of damage over there from all this war. And so far we have big banks, big national banks, BlackRock, and now the Clinton Global Initiative. They're moving in. They're going to help rebuild Ukraine. So you wonder where your $112 billion went when it went to Ukraine? If it didn't go in the oligarchs' pockets, or it didn't come back to America and some of your representatives' pockets who are cheerleaders for Ukraine, and if it didn't go to Zelensky, it's probably going back to rebuilding, quote unquote rebuilding. So we tear it down to then give all our money to these organizations to build it back up to still have the same problems. It's called money laundering. It's called taking the taxpayer dollars. It is a huge scheme for you to lose money, not to have it, to give to people. Basically, it's like you just take your money and just give it to these big ultra-billion-dollar companies, these ultra-trillion-dollar companies like BlackRock. Come on, guys. You can fly your Ukraine flags all you want. There's a whole lot more to this than just Russia-Ukraine. There's a battle of global agendas and the movement of money. And I honestly believe if we don't see this, the Clinton Global Initiative has this big push to go to Ukraine and rebuild it. Come on, they're not doing it for free. Come on. Where's that money coming from? Well, there's $112 billion of our money floating over there, so I'm guessing they'll find ways to rebuild it. So that's the 10 stories for today. Be looking at all these impacting you, from the water issues, from the food security issues when it comes to supply chain, through national issues and the fact your tax dollars are going all over. These Republicans who call themselves conservative, freedom-loving libertarians, and all of a sudden they're still backing people like McCarthy. Come on, guys. We've got to fix that. All these things affect us. And this week is not going to be different. 2A rights, 1A rights, Sound of Freedom movie? I mean, come on. Again, our world is literally falling to pieces, and Biden's word this week in a tweet was he was worried about concert tickets and they costing you too much. That's out of touch. Our military needs to be utilized to protect our borders, but they're worried about not showing you Sound of Freedom while we're having an invasion on the southern border. Our priorities need to be realigned. Now, more than anything, I hope today, this is Sunday, I hope you took your family to church. I hope that you realize there's so much more to this, and there's a spiritual battle always. And the only way we can face that is we spiritually prep by finding Christ and understanding the importance of that in our personal lives. If you don't, I challenge you to try that. Pray. Read the Bible. See if it can impact your life, because I promise you it can. That is the best prep. When it comes mentally, physically, and emotionally prepping, taking care of your family, those are all good. But if we don't spiritually prep, all the other things will not fall in line. When that falls in line, everything else will fall in line, and we won't worry as much. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless. Happy homesteading, y'all.
Yeah. Be free, be free, be free.